Hello, welcome. I'd like to thank the Clinton Senior Center for inviting me here today to share in the Caregiving series. And I'm going to be speaking on the topic, dealing with the loss when caregiving ends. So I'd like to welcome everyone here, and it's nice for me to be back here again. I play here professionally music, and also we have a bereavement support group that we have every fourth Thursday of the month. In fact, the next one is the day after tomorrow here from 3 until 5. If anyone is interested in coming along, you are more than welcome. It's open to the community, it's free, and we would love to see you here. My name is Clyde Wheatley. I'm a hospice chaplain and bereavement coordinator. I've been in hospice for 13 years, just over 13 years. And I'm currently the bereavement coordinator for Brookhaven Hospice. And Brookhaven have allowed me to come here and share with you, and it's a real privilege and an honor to be here. So thank you for having me. If there are any caregivers here, and I believe we do have some caregivers here, having spoken to you earlier, and you've been caring for a loved one, or maybe you're at home listening to this broadcast, I just want to recognize you and to thank you for what you have done and for what you are doing. It is not an easy task. It's the selfless sacrifices that caregivers give is beyond words. Sleepless nights and all manner of things, but I just want to let you know that you are valued, and we thank you for what you do. It is not an easy task by any means, and we'll get into some of that. So you are valued, and we want to thank you, and for you to know that, because sometimes it's like a thankless task doing that job. And I know that your loved one is extremely grateful for the care that you provide. So the topic I'm speaking on today is dealing with the loss when caregiving ends. And if I may preface this talk by saying that no two people grieve the same. There is no wrong way to grieve. There will be many people that are listening to this broadcast that are grieving today. There are those that are listening that are caregivers or may have come to the end of caregiving. It could be that your loved one has actually recovered if your loved one is a cancer patient, as I know about a friend of mine, and they recovered and the caregiving stopped and it came to an end in that way. In other ways, of course, the loved one passes on, and so now you're dealing with the fact that you've been caregiving for so many years or months, and now you've lost your loved one. And so there's a mix of people here that we're going to be talking to, and I really hope that you'll be able to get something out of this talk that is pertinent to you specifically. And so the emotions that we go through, we can go from relief to sadness to guilt, to numbness, wanting people around you and then wanting nobody around you. The mixed emotions can come and go at any time. There is no order to them, and one never knows when it's going to be triggered. I lost my mum 5 years ago this April to cancer, and went over to London for a week and spent a week every day with her in the hospital. And I came back, and then it was 3 weeks later that she passed. So I know a little bit about caregiving, and what I want to share with you today is what I've gleaned and a lot of what the experts are saying. And that's what I really want to get across today, that there are some experts that really do know what it is firsthand to do this. And I know some of you are here that are caregiving. Some of the questions I get asked is there life after caregiving? Will I ever recover from this loss? Will I be able to live a full life again after this loss? And another question is, where is my place in the world now that I am no longer a caregiver? These are very real questions, especially those that have been a caregiver in a nursing home and they've been going every day for 3 years. You're there, I don't know, from 11 in the morning through to the afternoon, and all of a sudden your loved one passes away. What do you now do? Because you've devoted so much time to caring and sacrificing and giving. And of course, we want to give, and caregiving, you want to do it. It's a pleasure. But it does take its toll on us. Excuse me. And so what follows in this talk are some of the biggest things that I've learned. There is definitely life after caregiving. However, it is to be expected that there will be a period of mourning and quietness where we really desire inner peace after the rushing around and life being like a whirlwind. Sometimes we're not particularly available to be with other people. We would rather be alone. Oftentimes, getting over being a caregiver begins with really helping ourselves to heal. And we're healing from the ordeal that has taken place. Physically, emotionally, there's a drain. It takes its toll when we're caregiving. And we may not be conscious of it at the time. We may be enjoying what we're doing, and that's wonderful. We want to be able to enjoy it, but it's also extremely tiring. So that's why I say emotionally, physically, spiritually, and mentally. And there are different paths to take, working with a natural path, perhaps taking a course of vitamins, meditation, yoga, rest, and relaxation. One of the first things that came back to a caregiver that I know about was they had come straight from caregiving. It was about 3 weeks later, they had the ability to be able to get a good night's sleep. That may not seem much to you right now, but for those that are caregiving, I think you know what that's like, because when you are caregiving, one is often super vigilant 24 hours a day, because we never know if our loved one may fall over or wake up in the night and you want to be there. Well, getting a good night's sleep is so restorative. It really is. And getting help to get a good night's sleep is important. Again, you can see your doctor if you have any questions about that. If sometimes you do need something to help you sleep, and that's okay. And these things are not habit forming. Some medication that your doctor can prescribe for you. And then when you are ready, this is of course for those that where the caregiving has come to an end. When you're ready, begin to connect with friends. Begin to relate again to your co-workers and to family, to those that you feel comfortable with, and connect again with your passions. These are very important things to think about. Sometimes we have to force ourselves to literally go out, be in the stream of life, because you need to get back into that current, into that flow. Many a time in the bereavement support groups that I lead here at the Clinton Senior Center, I've had people say to me, I forced myself to come today. I did not want to come. I'm tired. And they are so glad that they came. And so sometimes we've got to get ourselves by the scruff of the neck and say, come on, we're going to get up and we're going to go. And we reap the rewards of that. It's refreshing. We get fresh air. We hear other people's stories and how they are dealing and coping with the loss themselves. And it's very healthy to get back into the stream of life. And it isn't that you will do it perhaps if caregiving ended last week, you don't get back into the stream immediately. If you can, that's great, and you're able to do that. But it may be within 6 months. It may be within 12 months. And even once you've done that and you've connected and you've begun to relate again to people, you may need to, for a period, retreat again for a short period, as long as you need to. And that's why it's important to surround yourself with people that care about you. And you don't want people around you that are going to criticize you and judge you and say, oh my goodness, are you still holding on to that photograph? You still got those clothes you're holding on to for your mom or your dad? When are you going to get over this? Those are the sort of people, God bless them, they have no idea what you're going through. And you can tell by those words. So they're not being mean, they just don't understand where you are. They don't understand that you're grieving, and there's an emptiness, a void inside of you which your loved one fulfilled. And so the people you want to have around you are those that will walk beside you at your pace, those that will encourage you, those that will care about you and not push you or pull you, but those that are understanding, patient, kind, and are good listeners. They're not easy to find. We have a lot of acquaintances, but very few friends. There'll be an experience sometimes of relief when caregiving is over. And sometimes that can be accompanied, oftentimes, by guilt. Should I really be allowing myself to feel a relief and to breathe a sigh of relief? Well, yes, you should be allowing yourself to do that. It's a relief, so enjoy it. You need it, you've earned it. But oftentimes the guilt is attached to it. And even though we may feel really good about being a caregiver and loving our loved one, and it's right to feel good about it, we need to remember that it is a drain on our physical, emotional, and mental reserves. For anybody, it's a drain. And so give yourself space, give yourself time, and celebrate. It's important to celebrate how well you have done in your job. It is really important because the way you shepherd a loved one out of this world says a lot about you. You have been responsible, you have done a truly excellent job. And not many people will tell you that. Not because they're withholding it, you just may never get told that. Well, I'm here to tell you, you are doing an excellent job. And it's not an easy one. And you need to be celebrated because you should feel really, really good about yourself for what you have done. The importance of rest and recuperation on all levels in the aftermath of caregiving is very, very important. The enormous stress all caregivers experience must be balanced with a time for healing so that re-entry back into normal life can occur when the caregiving is complete. And while feelings of guilt about the job a caregiver has done are not uncommon, the main feeling should be to celebrate and encourage yourself. It's been a traumatic time for you and for your loved one. And especially if your loved one has passed on, now you're dealing with the loss of your loved one as well. So you're physically and mentally and emotionally drained, and you're now grieving the loss of your loved one. So be patient with yourself. There is a transition and a progression. You cry, you get sad, you smile, and then you laugh. And the transition from crying to smiling could mean that we are emerging from the worst of the grieving process. So be encouraged. As a caregiver, you've devoted an enormous amount of help and support and time to a family member or maybe a friend. It could be a friend with cancer. This important role was your focus for many months, maybe even years. But the need for caregiving is over. And the person you cared for is now in the place of peace if they've passed on. And you're struggling to find a new sense of purpose and to engage in new routines. It takes time to adjust to normal life. It really does, after caregiving ends. And what I would like to do is offer 10 tips that can ease the transition. Who will you be when caregiving ends? What will you be like? Oftentimes people are different. They emerge a different person. So I would like to focus on these 10 ways to adjust to life after caregiving. And these 10 ways are by no means exhaustive. In fact, there are several scores of ways to do it, but I'm going to focus our attention on these 10 that I've chosen. So the first one that I'm going to start with is resume your hobbies. You may have been too busy providing support and care for your loved one and had no time to be enjoying your hobbies or going out. Now that you've got some free time, it's good if you can rejoin or join and enter again into a club that you may have been in, a hobby that you enjoyed doing. So resume your hobbies is one way. Number 2, re-establish positive relationships. It's easy to fall out of touch with others who have not been involved in your life as you've been caring for your loved one. And in a way you've become isolated. You haven't meant to, but in giving all of your time to your loved one, you've kind of disconnected. Re-establish those good relationships that you once had, and maybe reach out and find some more. Family members, friends, co-workers, the ones whose company you enjoy. That's important. And number 3, take care of your body. Excuse me. The stress of caregiving can sometimes lead to unhealthy habits, smoking, drinking alcohol perhaps, not sleeping well. Let go of the bad habits and make time to exercise and to eat well, to eat healthy foods and to get enough sleep. And if you need help making healthy changes and decisions, again, you can ask your doctor or attend a bereavement support group and ask some questions there. So taking care of your body is number 3. Number 4, go back to work. I know some of these points may be kind of, oh, I couldn't even think about doing that. Well, that means it's not the right time for you to do that. Don't beat yourself up about things like this. There is a right time for you. Everyone is an individual. No 2 people grieve the same. No 2 people feel the same when caregiving is over or when we lose a loved one. 2 people can lose their mother and grieve completely different ways. I know of a brother and a sister. I officiated a memorial service for this dear lady, and she passed, and the daughter slept incessantly. She got up, went to work, came home, ate, went to bed, and was out until the morning. This went on for 3 to 4 weeks. Her brother, on the other hand, couldn't sleep at all and was completely hyperactive, keeping himself busy, working all the hours, exercising, just going out. That was his way of coping with this hole inside that he felt, with this loss that he felt after losing his mum. So be patient with yourself. So saying go back to work, if you took leave of absence from a job, think about returning to the workplace. This may make it easier for you during this adjustment period. Number 5, volunteer or support a cause or help others. I know of many people actually who have looked after their loved one in a nursing home. They were so used to going to that nursing home 3 or 4 times a week that when their loved one had passed, I think it was 4 or 5 weeks later, they went in at the time they would normally go in. It took them courage to do that. They were scared to do that because they thought, oh no, my loved one isn't going to be there. What will I feel like? How will I be? Well, this particular person, he did really well. He went in and he began to be a volunteer. And he found it so rewarding, he felt needed, and he felt connected again with people. That was his way of re-entering into the stream of life and helping himself to get back to normal life. So caregiving is challenging, and you may have found that providing support was rewarding. It's good because you feel needed. Consider offering your time to an organization or even a cause that may be in line with your loved one. I know of another lady actually in a bereavement support group I led a few years ago whose mother had passed because of dementia. Dementia was the main diagnosis, and it was very sad. She began to raise money, she went for walks, she set up all sorts of runs, and she started to be a fundraiser for research for dementia patients. And that was her way of giving back to the community, and it really made her feel good that she's making a difference. So that's something you can consider to volunteer and support a cause or help others. Number 6 is write a journal. Writing about the stressful events, about things in your life that you do daily, is a really good way to have an outlet to express your feelings. It can also allow you to look back at your caregiving journey and set new goals. Again, this is not for everyone. I actually have kept a journal, and recently I moved and found a stack of them in my basement. And I couldn't help thumb through them, and some of them go back to when I was 15, 16 years old. And I thought, wow, this is how I coped with things back then, 20 years ago. My highs, my lows, my highest highs, my lowest lows, they were all in there. It was a real eye-opener for me. For many people, keeping a journal is an easy way to unload what is weighing heavy on their minds. It's amazing what writing it down can do for you. It's almost like being counseled. The fact that you've let it out, it's on paper. It's an easy way to express feelings and to even document your journey. In fact, there is a scientific research showing that expressing your innermost thoughts and feelings can reduce stress and promote a range of other physical, emotional, and social benefits. I mentioned cancer a few times. Perhaps it's because it's the disease that shortened my mother's life. Early research into the benefits of expressive writing for people with cancer, for both men and women. They wrote about their deepest thoughts and their feelings about their illness. The result was fewer symptoms, and they had the fewest unscheduled visits to the doctor. That's true. Excuse me. The study published in 2008 showed that even one 20-minute writing session may be enough to change the way people with cancer think and feel about the disease that's in their body. Almost immediately there was a change just because they had written it down. Putting thoughts down on paper is so effective, and it seems that this practice allows people to process and express difficult feelings, to clarify their goals, and to even figure out a way forward and better cope with the illness that they're dealing with. Journaling is a very personal thing, so there's no wrong way to do it. But here are a couple of ideas. I've got how best to do it. Some people like to do it on the computer, on a tablet. Other people like to use pen and paper. Whichever you prefer is good for you. When? Maybe you could find that writing in the mornings can help set the tone for the day. Or maybe writing before bed helps you to unwind and process all that has happened throughout the day before you go to sleep. How often? Perhaps writing every day seems too strict and rigid. Well, do it whenever it feels good for you. There's no rights and wrongs about it, whenever it suits you. Find out what works for your personality and schedule if you want to do journaling. Number 7, and remember, we're looking at ways to adjust after caregiving. Recognize depression. This is a big one in a lot of people. Recognize depression. Several studies show that caregivers are at an increased risk of depression. Depression includes ongoing feelings of sadness and despair that actually can prevent you doing your daily activities. That's a sign that you may be bordering on depression. If you have these feelings or have other signs of depression, see your doctor and talk to your doctor about it. If it interferes with your daily activities, then you know that maybe you're bordering on depression. It's good to talk to somebody about that. So recognize depression. Number 8, consider counseling. Getting guidance from a trained mental health professional can help reduce stress, expand coping and decision making, and improve overall quality of life. Again, you can ask your doctor what type of counselor might be best suited for you. Number 9, I mentioned this earlier, choose wisely who you can safely share your loss with, who you can share your pain and your sadness with. Even if you feel relief, sharing that with someone that will say, oh, wow, you feel relieved. And they can look at you in a way that makes you feel guilty. And those people you do not want to share with, they don't mean any harm, they just don't understand where you are and what you're going through. There's a book called Don't Sing Songs to a Heavy Heart. Don't sing songs to a heavy heart. I'd like to recommend 3 books actually in topic number 9. One is Don't Sing Songs to a Heavy Heart. It's a book by a clinical psychologist who's also a pastor, Kenneth Hawke. And it's how to relate to those who are suffering. There is a way to relate to those who are suffering. Oftentimes people say, I don't know what to say. Just say, I'm sorry. So if you're with someone and they lose a loved one, often people will withdraw because they don't know what to say, they don't know how to handle it. You can just say, I'm really sorry, and give them a hug. That really helps. This particular book can help you find yourself again. It takes time. Give yourself time and space. Be patient with yourself. Another book I'd like to recommend is, you may have heard of Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, a Swiss-American psychiatrist. She wrote several books. One in particular is On Life After Death. And this book collects 4 essays drawn from her years of working with the dying and learning from them what life is all about. The Wheel of Life is another book. It's really a memoir of living and dying, written by Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. The Kubler-Ross model, otherwise known as the 5 stages of grief, postulates a series of emotions experienced by terminally ill patients prior to death, or people presented by the loss of a loved one. And the 5 stages are DABDA, D-A-B-D-A. Denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. These are the 5 stages of grief. It's called the Kubler-Ross model. Now we go through these emotions, and there's plenty more about other emotions in there. Numbness, and with denial and getting frustrated, being angry at God, all these emotions come to us at times that we least expect it. And there's no specific order. It's not like you're on stage 2, now I'm getting to stage 3. Grief doesn't work like that. Grief is work, and it's tiring and it's emotionally draining. But everybody is an individual, and no 2 people grieve the same way. So when someone who may have lost their mother at the same time as you've lost your mother, they may be feeling numb, you may be feeling angry. Some people can sleep better, other people lose sleep. Some people can't eat, they have no appetite, other people overeat. Everyone compensates the way that they can. These are all normal grief reactions. So what I'd like to say is, going back to point number 9, choosing your friends. We have many acquaintances, but very few friends. And those that do not judge or criticize you are the ones you want to be around. Those who you feel comfortable with. Those who are understanding. I'm now going to move on to number 10. Join a support group. I know I mentioned it earlier, excuse me. A support group is a safe place for you to share experiences. It's a place where you can love, laugh, be sad and mourn, share or not share. Some people say, I don't want to go to a bereavement support group because I'm going to have to talk. You don't have to talk, you can just listen. It helps to talk because healing begins when we talk. If we bottle it up and never talk for 2-3 years, people say time heals everything. That's not quite true. Time doesn't heal anything. If that was true, then if I lived to 90 years of age, then I should be completely healed. But that isn't true because I've lived longer and I've got more time on my chart. No, it's what we do within that time that brings healing. How we manage life, giving up bad habits, engaging in hobbies, connecting with people, getting back into the stream of life. A support group can be a very good and helpful thing to go to because you are able to share and you're able to hear what other people are doing and how they're managing. So those are my 10 points, and I hope they've been helpful to you. 10 ways to adjust to life after caregiving and dealing with loss when caregiving ends. So in closing, I would encourage you to let your heart go on. Your best days are really still out in front of you. It may be difficult to realize that where you are at the moment, but that is a fact. Your best days are yet to come. And it'll be a new life. So I'm actually going to play my soprano sax. I'm going to play My Heart Will Go On. It was written by James Horner and the lyrics are by Will Jennings. It is the theme music from the movie Titanic. I am a professional musician as well as a hospice chaplain and bereavement coordinator. I play professionally in everywhere actually, in jazz clubs, in hotels, in nursing homes, in assisted living facilities, in senior centers. I believe I was playing at your Christmas party last year. We had a great time. They've done a study, and it's true that they have discovered that the last thing that goes in the brain of a dementia patient or patient with Alzheimer's is music. Music is so powerful, it triggers sensories in the brain, sensors in the brain, and it causes them to mime. They're able to remember the words to a song that perhaps they've been not talking and they can't remember anything, and as soon as they hear a song that they're familiar with, you see them miming and even tapping their feet. That's because the music is getting into the brain and it's activating those brain cells. It is amazing what happens. And even when the music stops, it's almost as if they go back to being as they were, quiet, not able to speak too well or remember too much. Music is very powerful, and that was a scientific research that was carried out 2 to 3 years ago. And they're realizing more and more how powerful a tool music is. Not just for Alzheimer's and dementia patients, but for all of us actually. So I'm going to play this song, My Heart Will Go On, and I'm going to end with this. I'd like to thank you all for being here today, and those who are watching on television. I hope this has been of some help and support to you. Thank you for taking the time to listen today. And thank you to the Clinton Senior Center for having me. God bless you all.